Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, this is our regularly scheduled podcast for the week. We were always going to talk today, but we had to talk on Saturday because of the monumental news that Patrick Waugh, of all people, is now the Islanders' head coach. That episode was really well received. You did it basically right after getting off a plane from Mexico. We now have one game to talk about in the new Waugh order. But for us, the story is still Patrick Waugh. How are you adjusting to the new Waugh order of the New York Islanders?
Yeah, it's only been one game in a couple days here, um, but I'm not ashamed to say I think I would die for him. I think I would die for Patrick Waugh.
I mean, he has certainly said everything that we could possibly have wanted him to say. So I do understand that
Yeah,
feeling. The game itself, we're going to talk about the game in a minute. And there's really not a ton to talk about, but everything he said has just been music to my ears.
yeah, I can't stop thinking about him,
Mm,
and it just generally
mm,
in the mundane, parts of my day or the conversations I've been having with other Islander fans or other people from who watch hockey who are reaching out. It's man, it's really still we're still in the in like the early honeymoon phase.
mhm.
It's such a nice phase to be in, and we should revel in that, right? Like we shouldn't think about what's to come or anything like that. Just enjoy the fact that the new order, as you put it, is off to a good start. And one thing that's surprised me, because when I first saw the news on the plane, and when I saw that news, I it took every bit of me not to storm the cockpit and be like, "I think I can land this thing," Because my adrenaline was pumping. Um, you want me to bring this bird down safely into JFK? We gotta get in there quick.
Mm,
Um, one thing that I thought was gonna happen was the same old tired, Islander, "What are the Islanders doing? Lou is past his expiration date," kinda jokes were gonna start rolling in. The
mhm.
laughs are just gonna start, coming thick and fast, and
Okay.
like a sitcom when
Mm,
those laugh tracks. Next up is this guy from The Athletic. Here's his Lou Lamoriello joke and laugh track, and here comes this writer from Sportsnet. Here's his joke and
mm.
laugh track. But not this has been about as well received, uh, and less lampooned, an Islander move, I think. And I want to put the Barry Trotz hire aside because that one was a little different.
Mm.
There was like bigger stuff going on with the Islanders at the time. Uh, but I think the only other one that was received with this little harumphing was the Ilya Sorokin extension, maybe? I can't
Yeah.
think of another one.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, there has definitely been some harumphing. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I do agree with you. Like, there's a lot of, you know what it is? This is sort of like, I don't want to jinx this, but this reminds me of when Doug Waite was given the job, and the hockey men, the 200 hockey men came out and approved this and gave it its their seal of approval because they're buddies and like they know the guy well. And so you're getting a lot of that. We're
Yeah.
going to talk about the French language reaction to this from Quebec and their channels up there, which has been also kind of fun. But no, you're right. I think a lot of people are into this. There have been some naysayers for sure, which I'm going to talk about at length in a little bit. But it has been fairly well received, especially for the Islanders. I mean, the Lambert news kind of came and went. Like nobody really cared because it was like, oh, well, they just named Barry Trotz as assistant. All right, whatever. So I don't even know if that really counts either. But it's very rare for them to get like praise. I guess maybe the Barzell extension, if anything, also kind of had that. Like, well, yeah, of course. Like, why,
Oh
why
yeah,
wouldn't
you
they
know what?
sign
That's yeah, it's probably yeah, it's the Barzell one is definitely
right?
up there.
Mm,
But I mean, even the Bo Horvat trade, which has been an absolute home run, Not
Right.
just for the Islanders, by the way, for the Canucks. Like
Right.
that's the irony of the lose-lose trade article that the Athletic couldn't wait to get out there was that, oh no, actually it's about
Right.
as win-win a trade as you can get in the
Yeah,
NHL.
pretty much. Yeah.
And yeah, I think the Horvat trade was just absolutely flooded with age curves and charts and
Mm,
regression models and but yeah, there's been none of that. And
mm,
I also think, and maybe I'm projecting here because I'm in such a jolly Islanders mood right now,
mm,
but I sense a little bit of jealousy out there.
mm.
Like, oh man, it would be pretty cool if we were the team that hired
Right.
Patrick Waugh.
Well,
Um,
Frege, there were a lot of teams that were
yeah.
looking around and the higher WA before the Islanders got to him. So it's possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I feel that way. And even I was talking to the guys that do the Line Change podcast with it at Action Network, and they couldn't be happier for me. They're like, that's so great. It's cool.
Hmm.
And yeah, so it's I don't know if I can't remember a time because even the Horvat trade, it wasn't uh it was great and it was fun and it worked out brilliantly, and it's almost been a year to the day now
Yeah, right.
um, that he's been on the
Which is
island. But
crazy.
yeah,
Crazy to think
crazy.
about it.
Uh, but that trade, the Islanders were there was no it wasn't like a refresher, right? It was more of a an addition, a jolt to the roster. This is this it feels very just clean, like a clean break and a new beginning. I kind of woke up this morning expecting, to be like 60 degrees out, the sun to set at like 7:30, very spring is in
Right.
the air kind of feel.
Hmm.
Um, and like you said, he keeps saying everything he keeps saying just makes you, want to run through a wall for him even more.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
it's you do get kind of jolted back down to earth when you look at the standings and realize the job the Islanders have ahead of them. But yeah, I'm not even gonna let that ruin the party right now. I'm having a blast.
Yeah, I will say one thing that I don't know if you may have had this happen to you, but my boss he's from the island, very casual Islanders fan. He's much more of a baseball fan. He's a huge Mets fan, and we had our normal meeting today, and he was like, "What the hell? Patrick Waugh is now coaching the Islanders?" And I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Wow, I remember him, years ago when I was younger." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, no, it's pretty wild." And I had to explain to him, that the whole concept of like, well, if you can get them to stop playing like assholes, they can win some games. And he was like, "What do you mean?" And I explained it to him, and he was like, "Well, isn't sometimes playing like an asshole good? Like, the '86 Mets were all pretty much assholes, and they did pretty well." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, Billy Smith is one of the biggest assholes in the history of hockey, but he's still the Islanders' greatest goalie, right? I mean." Who doesn't love Billy Smith? So I mean, there's that aspect, but these guys play like a different kind of assholes. Like they're just sloppy, disorganized, they let the other team do what they want. They don't do much on their own in the offensive zone, that kind of thing. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess that makes more sense." So it's not like a playing like with swagger like you're an asshole. It's just playing stupidly like you're an asshole. And in the first game, we saw some more of that. So we have a little bit of a time before that gets worked out of the system. But the fact that this guy who's only barely kind of has contact with the hockey world knew of this and was like, "Wow, that guy from, I remember from, 15, 20 years ago is coaching that."
Yep.
That's pretty wild. So that's a level
Yeah.
of reach the Islanders almost never get.
Yeah. Yeah. It does feel like the Islanders are. If this was, they're like cool in like the Vince Vaughn
Right.
way, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels very rounders, and you could see like if you wanted to like throw on some retro shades or something, you could
Mm,
see Patrick Waugh and Vince Vaughn like
mm.
joking on like a golf course. John Favreau, Ed Norton, like
Right.
that crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it feels it's cool. Like it is cool in the '90s sense of the
Yes.
word cool. Like
Right.
it is very '90s cool.
Yeah.
And I feel it. I mean, it. My brother was the first one to point this out to me that uh, it's such a fun feeling that Patrick Waugh has been a part of basically 2 NHL organizations for 40 years,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
it's been the Habs and then the Avalanche. He's a legend for both, and now it's the Islanders too. So,
Mm,
the it's yeah, that's cool. That the we've talked a lot over the years about the Islanders Canadians alliance
mm.
too. Maybe the strongest. This is the strongest the alliance has ever been,
Oh yeah.
and I think it might be one of the strongest alliances in history now.
Mm.
Like this thing has brought it up to the power top of the power rankings of alliances in world history. So it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's very I don't know. I can't I feel the way about Patrick Waugh that I think people in England feel about Horatio Nelson. You know, like the guy who orchestrated the victory at Trafalgar.
Oh. Oh man. Oh, I thought you were talking about some soccer guy. I was
No,
like, what
no,
the?
no, no, no. Even better.
Yeah.
A naval general in
Makes
from the
sense.
late 1700s,
Yeah.
that or 1800s, whatever it was. But yeah, like in a way, no matter what Nelson did, like he of course like he's a human being, so he had
Mm.
flaws, like Patrick Waugh, but they just kind of are put to the side. Like,
Right.
oh yeah, the guy's he tried to fight other coaches and
Mm.
had this that. Yeah, kind of adds to his allure here.
Right.
And we're all I'm happy to go down with the ship with this guy. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like you said right off the top, right now, that seems to be the case. All right. So let's talk about the game, and then we'll get into all the WA aspects thereafter, because we are going to talk basically about WA the entire time, and then we'll get into the next couple of games in the second half. Real quick, the last episode, which again was an emergency podcast, is one of the fastest downloaded episodes we've ever done. Pretty much shot right out of the gate, and seems like a lot of people liked it. So that's great. Thank you all very much. If you're a new listener, why don't you head on over to patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety, sign up for one of our plans. You get ad-free episodes, bonus content, and a whole lot more. There's a ton of stuff coming out next week that I'm going to talk about later, but we are always here, and we have a ton more to give. So patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety anytime for more of us, basically. Okay, so let's talk about the game real quick against the Dallas Stars, 3-2 overtime win on Sunday night. I don't know how much we can really talk about this, because obviously, Wilding had the one sort of short practice during the day. We'll talk about his comments and his sort of demeanor during that practice in a second. Didn't have a lot of time to like put kind of a structure in there. And frankly, the Islanders did play like assholes, that as they normally have for the most part. The first period I thought was pretty good. It was all Dallas early. The Islanders clawed back right after Alex Romanov scored on a beautiful goal. Butch Goring complaining that he doesn't shoot enough because this guy's got a beautiful shot. And he's not wrong. Barzell, Martin, Nelson all had really glorious chances, but Scott Wedgwood playing in his second of a back-to-back was pretty impressive. But they really were making the same mistakes all over the game. Second period was more of the same. We have seen this time and again under Lane Lambert, and now we saw it under Patrick Waugh. Just sloppy. They couldn't break out of their own zone. Holmstrom and Pajot had a 2-on-1 that got stopped. Fashing had a chance, didn't go. And then Jason Robertson dangles Scott Mayfield, scores, does a really kind of obnoxious celebration. I don't know if he thought this was a playoff game or something. It was a little bit weird. And then Nils Lundqvist has a slap shot that goes right past Ilya Sorokin. Not a great goal by Sorokin. But by that point, he'd probably seen about 25 shots already. So he's probably very, very under sieged. Third period, better effort. Fashing ties the game off a shot from Dobson. And they held on, or at least, didn't blow it with the rest of the period, because that was sort of early. And then the best part of the game, easily, early in overtime, Matt Barzell back checks Matt Duchene, basically turns around, feeds it right to Bo Horvat, who slides in and scores on one of the most beautiful backhand goals you'll ever see to win the game. UBS Arena goes nuts. Patrick Waugh is shaking hands. He's giving high fives to Doug Huda and all the guys on the bench. And it was great that they won. And the energy was super high. I will say that the Islanders did have a lot more jump than they normally did. The refs decided to give 3 power plays to the Stars and none to the Islanders, which I thought was a little bit weird. At one point, somebody sat on Matt Barzell for a good 45 seconds. That wasn't worthy of a penalty, I guess. I don't know. But as I tweeted, that Patrick Waugh is getting a crash course in what it's like, what games are officiated like when you work for the Islanders. So, all told, it was a pretty good, entertaining game. very much like what we've seen before. They got the win, which is the most important thing. They showed a lot of energy. I think they wanted to show Wah, make a good first impression on Wah, but it's pretty clear he's got his work cut out for him already. What did you think of this game watching it? What did you think of Wah's kind of practice demeanor, slapping the stick, yelling, whistling, all that kind of stuff? And basically, what were your feelings when it was all over and Bo Horvat scored that fantastic goal?
Yeah, I was there. I was at the game, and
Nice.
it was a great environment. A lot of Stars fans,
Yeah.
which is cool. Like I think that that green jersey,
Mm,
littered, sprinkled throughout a road arena. It's kind of fun. It's
mm,
just like blue, 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 little really bright green, blue, green. It's
mm.
you got to hear the Stars during the national
Oh, really?
anthem.
I
Yeah,
noticed a
yeah. I
bunch
mean,
behind the bench, which I thought was kind of
yeah,
not
they
behind the
were
bench, behind the ends, basically.
yes, yes, behind both nets, and
Right.
but I was talking to a few friends. They were asking about how it was, and I likened it to a going to a family party, like a first communion,
Mm,
for a kid, or uh a kid's, like, maybe a niece or nephew or son or daughter's, well, not even a son or daughter, but like a niece or nephew's, like, kindergarten graduation,
mm.
where there's no pressure on you,
Right.
and it's just kind of like a very pure, innocent moment. Everyone's in a good mood.
Mm.
There's no onus on you to entertain or anything like that. Um, that's how it felt, and
Mm,
it was a good time. Like you said, I think that the team looked the same,
mm,
which is not unexpected, except for a couple things, right? Like the subtle, the not so subtle changes, I guess you could say, was Wah, wouldn't you know, identified his
mm.
best players and played them in the most important parts of the game.
Yes, that was
So,
noticeable.
I couldn't tell you, man. I that was such a refreshing change to see, Matt Barzell getting heavy shifts, with Bo Horvat
Mm.
down the stretch there in regulation. I thought Ilya Sorokin maybe his best game of the season, um, as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was good, and the issues were there. Like Scott Mayfield, I thought was had a rough game. Sam Bolduc played a lot for the Dallas Stars, which is a problem because he's a member of the New York Islanders.
Right.
Um, Sebastian Aho was exposed a couple times, but they got the most important thing is that you in these situations, this is a huge was a huge spot for the Islanders to kind of just galvanize, and
Mm,
no matter how they played, just get the 2 points, and they did it. And walking out of the arena was great, and everybody was just very happy. It was just
mm.
it was freezing out, and nobody cared. Everybody was warm. It just it was such a fun night to be an Islander fan, and my only regret about going is I didn't get to watch the Rock cam
Oh,
on
yeah.
uh on MSG.
So I'm glad you brought this up. So I was at home and I did in fact watch the Wacom. And I want to say that's a great idea because he is an animated guy behind the bench, especially in the first game. And he's got his arms around guys and he's tapping them on the shoulders and he's getting right in their ear and talking to them. And he's getting right up to John McClane and talking to him and stuff. And I'm assuming that that's not what Lane Lambert was like at all. That said, the implementation of it was absolutely terrible because you had a little screen with Wah and a slightly bigger screen with the Islanders, and it made it very, very difficult to see what was going on. And if they're going to do that again, please don't do it like that. I think a little Wah cam, maybe up near the score bug while the game is still full screen, would be better. But shrinking it like that with all that dead sort of desktop space, for lack of a better word, didn't really work. And the fact that they hung on it for a while was probably a little too much. Now that being said, as animated as he is, he still isn't that interesting back then. Like it's cool, but like you could show that coming back from a commercial too, and I think we'd all get the gist that like this guy is talkative. I think that's okay. We don't really need the walk cam. It's a nice idea. Again, I appreciate it, but to me, if I never saw it again and it became like a relic, like that time what's his name, Brett Yormark, change the goal horn to like the subway sign. I think that would probably be fine for it. Just say we did it, we saw it, and then we're done.
Or the when John Tonelli did the like storm
Yeah.
alarm
Oh
thing,
right. Yeah. Oh my
and
god.
and
Yeah.
everyone was like, "That was terrible," and
Yeah.
they trashed it.
That was it. We're done. Yeah.
Um,
Forgot about that.
what yeah, yeah, thought it was funny, and it really reminded me of something I think I've said on this show before, which is that, uh, TV producers produce TV for other TV producers,
Yeah.
right? And it 'cause that's their job. They're not
Mm,
necessarily fans. Maybe that's how they got into it, but, um, so sometimes those decisions, you're like, "What is going on?" And then you remind yourself of
right.
that saying, and it starts to make more sense. But and then yeah, I heard that I couldn't hear Patrick Watt yelling, but
Yeah.
this also feels like a one of those Coliseum fables
Yeah.
that people are like, I can hear him yelling all the
The
way in
300s.
it's
I heard
section
him. Yeah.
304 row S, and maybe they did, I've heard that a couple people did hear him, but I like that that's gonna add it to the lore. That's the
Mm.
thing, like, he's been here for 3 days, and there's already, like, this gigantic presence. There's already a lot of lore and these things. It feels almost it feels so surreal and so, almost like J.R.R. Tolkien is writing the
Right.
story, right?
Yeah.
There's, like, all these is this, like, just an allegory? Am I just in a real life allegory right now? Like, who is Patrick Waugh supposed to be in this allegory?
Mm.
Is he Jesus? I don't know. Like, what's going on here? But yeah, the game itself, like we said, was very well, Lane Lambert Islanders, except for there seemed to be a little bit more snap to them,
Yeah.
I would say, which is to be expected. And the even the pregame stuff. Here's the other thing too, that the team deserves credit for. Uh, the Islanders in pre Malkin and Ledecky, I should say,
Mm.
were very uh, vanilla, very milk toast in the way that they uh, created in-house content. I guess you could say
Mhm.
content by the Islanders for Islander fans. We wouldn't see the, and I'm not saying that I want to see how the Leafs are like, oh my goodness,
Yeah. Please don't
William
become
Nylander's wearing SpongeBob slippers to the game tonight.
yeah.
Everybody like,
Yeah, please don't become one of those self-aware Twitter
right?
accounts that I absolutely can't stand. I've
Yeah,
muted so many of them. I never seem to see that again.
yeah. It's not that, but
Right.
they did like they kind of understood the moment, which was to kind of capture the biggest emotional parts for walking into the
Right.
arena,
Yeah.
the handshake, like you said after the game, the fist pump, the Judd Nelson Breakfast Club fist pump after Bo Horvat scored, uh, which I could. Yeah, they should have borrowed the goal song from the Canucks. The "Don't You
Yeah.
Forget About Me" for just for that. Um,
It's funny.
so yeah, they did those folks deserve a lot of credit for the way that it was covered, and um yeah, and like even like you said, the morning skate with him yelling and uh just being like we the best line was what he was just like, we have to be good at this.
Yeah.
I thought that was so almost simple, and to the fact I was like, I've been waiting for someone to say that to these
Yeah.
guys for 2 years.
We've been saying it right. We
Yeah,
have to
like
be good at this. You
like
stop being you used to be good at this, now you're
yeah,
not.
this is
Yeah.
kind of an important part of the game, and
Right.
so you just be good at it because
Yeah.
you used to be, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it was an emotional night, a lot of fun, and I left more and just gaga for the guy than I went in. And the funniest part about this whole experience has been that, and we talked about this on Saturday, that Patrick Waugh has kind of just not meant anything to me
Mhm.
before
Right.
this, right? He was
Yeah.
he was a sure a looming figure, a huge star, guy who had great sound bites, a maniac as well, the bloody face and during the fight with Mike
Mm.
Vernon, that kind of stuff. But he was never a guy who I was like, yeah, he's one of my favorite non-Islanders ever.
Right.
I love the guy. He was just Patrick Waugh, and cool name,
Mm.
hulking goalie, cool pads, and yeah, now it's like I've seen the light. I've just seen this like complete. He's now one of the most important people in my life. It's yeah. What a crazy couple days here.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next Watt thing, I do want to acknowledge again Bo Horvat and that goal. I thought he played a pretty good game. This is a guy who's already had two coaches in his 1 year of being an Islander, which is kind of a crazy thing as well. I thought that goal. Sometimes these guys do stuff that just, you watch so much hockey, kind of gets all rolled up into one. But sometimes these guys do stuff that makes it look so easy. And that goal, that backhand goal from what, 6-7 feet in front of the net, was scored with such authority and such confidence that it it resonated through you. Like, yes, obviously the wow factor was huge, but like seeing that goal again today a couple of times, it's just like, man, that guy, he looked like he was having fun, which is not something that these guys have probably done a lot of in the
Yeah.
last year or so. And it just was great. And I thought, Barzell was kind of all over the place. Again, probably trying to do too much, but he almost got into a fight at one point, and I was like, "What is
Yeah.
happening right now?" And they're trying to make an impression on the new coach. Like, it happens, but like that goal was that Bo's 20th, I think, of this season, and or 19th or whatever. And it's just like this guy with this guy and Barzell and some of the and Dobson in particular and Sorokin, this team really should be much better than it is, which has been the whole kind of message so far. And hopefully Waugh can drag it out of these guys. And hopefully Horvat is a guy Waugh's seen play before this, because that's the other funny thing. We talked about this on Saturday, where and I went back and listened to the whole press conference after we did it, and yeah, when he's like, I accidentally watched the game against the Kings, and I was impressed by the resiliency. And I was like, yeah, accidentally. I don't know if that's going to really work, but I'm sure he's seen a few Canucks games with Bo Horvat, so he probably knows
Yeah.
what it's like. But I thought that goal was beautiful.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
And um, starting with Horvat and Barzell at overtime,
Yes.
huh?
Yes.
Crazy stuff. Man, you wonder if Lane Lambert just did the things that were simpler and,
Right.
and kind of like rudimentary hockey minds like you and me were like, why is Matt Martin out again? Why doesn't he play Matt Barzell? If he had just done those kind of things instead of being stubborn, if we're just kind of trudging along in the Lane Lambert experience and not Patrick Waugh. But yeah, there was a weird sense of calm when I saw that pass go to Horvat. That I was like, he's gonna score here. He's got no angle, but I just had a feeling. And
Right.
I don't know if you played CYO basketball growing up, but
I did very poorly. So
yeah, and same here. and but I was on a couple of teams with a couple good players. Like I was just the guy who'd go out there and try to. It sounds like a hockey cliche. I just go out there and like try to provide a little bit of like energy and grab a couple of rebounds or whatever, and then make way. But when I was in high school and we were playing CYO basketball, you kind of just knew who the guys were that were supposed to be out in crunch time, and nobody's feelings would get hurt because we were in high school and we just were like having a good time. It was something to do on a weeknight rather than worry about homework or whatever. And that's how I feel about Barzell and Horvat. It's like these are, everybody knows who's supposed to be out in this time, and you could say the same about Nelson. And you're like, just play those guys when there's 3 minutes left and you're playing St. Killian's and you want to win because the guys on the other team or whatever, and you just want to shove it in their face. Like, I'll sit on the bench for the entire fourth quarter. I just want to win. and that's how it felt. Like, it just play those guys. And it worked out. And yeah, beautiful goal. And we're like I said, we are approaching 1 year anniversary of the Bo Horvat trade, and it just worked out so nicely. He's the best. I love him. He's such a good guy, and provided a great quote after the game too about Waugh, and him and Barzell seem to be pretty pumped about the change here.
I like Barzell was like, I'm not gonna talk any smack about anybody else who was here, but because every coach is different. But Patty seems to stress puck possession and zone time, and you could tell that was stuff that was very, very important to him. Before the coaching change, there was the game in Nashville, and somebody on the Patreon asked about this, and so I figured we'd bring it up real quick. That Horvat was kind of out late. They obviously gave up that goal with 7 seconds left, and then an empty netter, and like the whole team basically walked into the locker room except Bo Horvat, and he was like standing out there, looked like he was kind of staring at the rest of the Predators celebrating, and it seemed like a very poignant moment. Thomas Hickey explained that it was weird that they were having a face off when there was no time left on the clock, and they probably should have just let it go and whatever. I didn't take that as sort of like a a Horvat kind of power move type of deal. It just I didn't take it as him like kind of trying to soak in the moment. I think he was just a guy who thought there might have been a face off then. But I think his role in this team as a leader on this team is only going to grow, and get goals like that and games like that, and the position he's in now with a new coach, I think is going to be a big thing, because I would suspect that Horvat, not that he's not going to lean on Anders Lee, because I'm sure Wah will learn what Barry Trotz learned, which is that the players listen to Lee. But I think he's got not just Lee, he's also got Bo Horvat to lean on. Whereas, Lambert might have had Lee and Nelson, and obviously he's going to learn a lot about those guys as well. So we'll see. But hats off to Bo. That was a great play, and just a lot of fun to watch. Just a beautiful goal. I love seeing a beautiful overtime goal. It's fun. Anyway, okay, back to Wah. So after the game, I actually watched the entire MSG postgame show, because now it's funny because I'm back on I got to hear what the coach is saying after the game train. Like, I did it for 4 years under Barry Trotz. I completely gave it up very quickly under Lane Lambert, and now I'm back on it because I want to hear what Patrick Waugh has to say. And a lot of this was just a continuation of what he talked about in his introductory press conference, which is like, he's excited for this opportunity to come back. He loves the game. He just wants to be back in it. And it was, he wanted this chance, and he's so grateful to Lou for having the trust in him and to bring him back. And, he's on the bench, and he kind of feels like he's a player a little bit. And, but then he talked about, some kind of more mundane sort of coaching stuff. Like, we gave up, 17 chances off a turnover. You can't do that, and we had this, that, and the other thing. You can't do that. We got to clean that up. But, almost like what he would normally be saying later on. And I was just like really impressed by what he had to say and how it sounded. And, I'm ready to go down the line with this guy, and I'm ready to kind of see where he takes them. And I think that he's going to be a lot more forthcoming than Lane was. Lane obviously was kind of a closed book. He didn't really say much of anything, but not just from an honesty perspective, but just from telling you what they did wrong specifically, which was, again, a thing I loved under Trotz. Like, he would come out, and one of my favorite things was, like, I would watch a game and be like, yeah, they didn't do this, that, or the other thing. And then Barry come out and he'd say, yeah, we didn't do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, I was right. Holy crap. Trotz and I are aligned. I feel like we might get a lot more of that with Juan, and I'm excited about it. But he seems, as of right now, we're going to talk a lot about this, he seems very, very, very grateful, very humble, and very excited for, again, the opportunity that he has been given to get back into the NHL coaching ranks. And it's infectious. It seems really sincere, after 3 days.
I think that's why part of the first couple of days has brought back some memories of Ted Nolan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you kind of have a little deja vu with Ted, and even the way they talk. Like, I know Patty, as Matt Barzell calls him, it has a that francophone accent, and Ted Nolan had the deepest Canadian accent, and it was great. I love the way that Ted Nolan used to say offense. He would call it offense. I'll never forget that. Offense is like weather, he used to say. But that's what this team is all about, right? Those kind of chip on the shoulder, redemption arcs. That's what jives with this fan base, because the Islanders are one, like just in existence. The Islanders are a team with just a chip on its shoulder. The team that's fueled by spite. We talk about that a lot. And a team that kind of just shouldn't be here.
Right.
And Wah is similar right now. Like, his not to say he shouldn't be here. He's definitely earned the opportunity to come back, but just like he walked out on his last NHL gig, and by his own admittance was like, that was a mistake. And the NHL, as a league, is so weird with who it decides to give second or third chances to.
Yes.
And when you didn't hear from him again, he kind of just was like, oh yeah, I guess he's not coming back, because if he hasn't come back in the first couple of years after that, he probably will never come back. But so I don't think that kind of is lost on him. And those powerful, in your soul moments and feelings are what Islander fans feel just generally about this team is like
Mm,
you just won't understand what it's like to be us
yeah.
until you are one of us, because you haven't had, Brett Yormark change the goal horn or uh, you and what it meant to us, or and
Mm,
you haven't had a team almost ripped from you,
yeah.
7 or 8 times. You haven't had to read through 8 different slideshows on Bleacher Report in, like, the early blogging days about, "Here are the 8 locations that the Islanders could move to."
Mm,
Number 1, Kansas City, Missouri. Number 2, Hamilton, Ontario.
mm,
So and why it has he already understands because he's coming from, um, a similar place. Like, he's coming from, you don't you won't understand what it's like to be in my shoes because nobody like, you're not me. Like, you just won't
mm,
understand what it's like to kinda be I don't wanna say blackballed, but I kinda just thrown into the hockey wilderness and
mm,
labeled as a maniac and
yeah.
a a workplace malcontent or whatever. So the fact that these 2 forces are joining, I think just makes sense, and
Yeah.
uh, that's when the Islanders are at their best is when they're working kind of hand in hand with the people who are leading the organization
Mm,
understand those kind of things, and it's why like someone like Gar Snow even worked for a while, right? Like it
right.
just
Yeah.
he got it. Barry Trotz obviously got it,
Mm.
and now it seems like this guy against all odds got it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because this is exactly where I kind of wanted to get to. And it's kind of an extended thing because I've been thinking about this all day. But I think the overarching storyline for this in both the short term and the long term, and you guys know that we love this kind of stuff, is going to be about redemption. Short term, it's can the Islanders redeem this season, which is kind of hanging on by their fingertips right now. Again, not mathematically over by any means, but it needs to be redeemed in a big way, and they have now 36 games left to do it. But the bigger redemption arc is was, and it gets back to exactly what you were saying. Like blackballed is probably a little bit more of a strong term, but this guy was essentially just forgotten about. Like he achieved everything you could possibly achieve in this sport. Just glory as a player, championships. He becomes a coach and he immediately wins coach of the year with a good team. And it looks like, this guy can do no wrong. And he gets into a disagreement about player acquisitions and direction. He leaves. And by his own admission, again, go back and listen to that presser on Saturday. He talks about how he expected the phone to ring pretty quickly and it didn't. And he was out of work for 2 years. And he kept waiting. I guess he was waiting for the phone the whole time, playing golf and just hanging out. And it just never happened. And so he went back to the beginning for him anyway, coaching, which was junior. And he built up his resume again there in the hope of getting another chance. And here's that other chance. And this is where, we've talked already, and we're going to talk more, I'm sure, about like how weird it is that Patrick Waugh, of all people, is wearing the Islanders logo. But like you said, this is where they thought they come together because I think he's learned throughout that 7 year sort of in the wilderness period in junior hockey what it's like to be an Islander. And like the league goes on without you. They just forget about you. And that's it. And they're doing their thing, and you're off doing your own thing because you can't compete with the guys who are actually trying to compete for the Stanley Cup. And so he's learned this. Of course, his period in the wilderness was 7 years. Ours is more like 25 or 30. But regardless, like he kind of got a taste of that. And I think now the 2024 version of Patrick Waugh is very much in line with the Islanders as opposed to the 1996 version of Patrick Waugh, which was again in a different stratosphere than the Islanders. But like that's a huge thing for me. And for him, this is a chance for him to redeem his legacy as a coach, which, he doesn't need to redeem his legacy as a player, obviously, but this is a huge thing. And I think that's really a cool thing. Now, again, hopefully this works because we talked on Saturday that this could end up, being a total disaster. But this looks like a guy who has totally changed. And somebody asked him, like, what's the difference between you now as a coach and you in 2017 as a coach? And he said it's night and day. He has gone back and he's learned about the modern player, learned about different techniques, learned what it's like to have to talk to these guys who are younger than him and get the most out of them and get them to be the best players they can be. And so that's not what he was doing. Maybe he was a little too much into the last time he thought maybe he could do a little too much, player acquisition, coaching. Now he's got enough trouble coaching, he said. Like that's his one focus. And so I'm very excited to see this redemption arc. But what kind of bums me out is I have friends who are cool people, smart people, really funny people that don't see it like this. Like you said, he was labeled a crazy person 7 years ago, and he's still a crazy person. And it's just like I don't get why this guy can't have this arc. Like these are also a lot of these same people are the ones who think that they can take your team's 25-year-old first round bust and take him on their team and turn him into a super. They'll turn him into a superstar. Like so that guy gets a second chance, but Patrick Watt doesn't get a second chance. I don't know if that really works that way, and it bums me out. Like I really wish that they would be as open to this redemption arc as we are. But again, like you said, maybe it's like it's our team and it's not their team, and obviously the Islanders are anything the Islanders do is going to be completely insane. So a lot of them are like, how can they fire Lane Lambert? Dude, have you watched this team play? Like, are you kidding me? So I'm excited for the Wah redemption tour. And I
Yeah,
think that's what this is. And it certainly sounds like that's the road that he's on. And again, I hope it comes to fruition and it gets completed with a Stanley Cup. That would be the awesomest thing ever.
yeah. I mean, come on, that would be
Yeah.
incredible, and it's fun to remind yourself that this is just day 3
Yeah.
of what you hope is like really long standing relationship, like that Patrick Waugh
Right.
just becomes
Yeah.
our guy, right? Like, and
Right.
that would be so cool. Um, and you can think back to this and how it started and how it started so well, and
Mm.
um, but I think that was actually very poignantly put. What you were just talking about with the redemption arc, and it just comes down to something we said all the time about Barry Trotz, which was that for to succeed as an Islander kind of person to succeed as an Islander. Um, I don't want to say icon but
Mm.
as an Islander, basically, it's someone who's kind of waving the flag. You just really need to clear one low hurdle,
Mm.
and that's just to get it.
Right.
A-
Yeah.
And it is a low hurdle, but it's also a complicated one because all you need to understand is the emotional baggage that comes with sitting on this side of the glass at UBS Arena or Nassau Coliseum, and understand and just respect that. Like
Mm.
to respect that someone who's 45 years old and sitting in the gods at UBS Arena,
Mm.
the shit that they've seen, right? And that they're still coming back, right?
Right.
Like that's what if you can understand that
Mm.
and respect it, that that person up there watched, some they watched the backup goalie become the general manager. They watched the team play in 3 different arenas
Right.
in 3 years. They
Mm.
they watched Mike Milbury
We
fire
watched our
coaches.
captain walk out the door
Yeah,
and talk about how much he loved playing for the team that he, wanted to play for the team that went to
right.
sign with.
And this is just in the last few years. Like
Right.
they watched Kirk Muller.
Yeah.
They watched shit like that happen. They watched the team lose basically every night in the late 90s, and
Right.
then watch them come back from the lockout and be pretty dreadful. And they watch Rick DiPietro sign a 15-year deal and just completely combust,
Right.
right? this
Mm.
the stuff that these people have seen, it's and still decide to come back. It should be it's respect. It's a respect thing.
Mm.
And to come in and not just say the old yeah, this is a storied franchise. I remember the dynasty. I watched, Clark Gillies and Mike Bossy and Brian Chache, blah blah blah. Like
Mm.
you get those lines all the time, but to come in and kind of just acknowledge you understand what's going on,
Mm.
it just goes such a long way. It goes such a long way with
Right.
with this fan base, and because that's basically what we've been asking for from a lot of different people, whether it be in the media, whether it be the old head coach, whether it be just other general managers, just understand where we're coming from here.
Yeah. And I think he
And
does. Yeah.
yeah, and it sounds like this guy, once again, I'm gonna say against the odds because
Mm.
I could not even fathom it. I'm a completely different person than I
Mm.
was on Saturday morning,
Mm.
uh, because of this guy. Like it feels like somehow the stars have aligned here,
Right.
and Patrick Waugh feels like the perfect fit for the New
Yeah.
York Islanders. Um, and
Right.
that's just, really, it's fun to get your head around it. It's hard to get your head around that statement, but it's fun to get there.
Yeah.
And that's the direction we're heading right now.
Yeah, definitely. Also, breaking news: CM Punk wore a Patrick Waugh T-shirt into a WWE Raw tonight. So note that.
Well,
Okay.
real quick before you go to send us to break here,
Yeah.
just because I do have a wrestling note for you,
Oh,
which is rare for me.
yeah.
But Saturday night is alumni night at UBS
Ooh.
Arena,
Right.
the 27th against the Panthers. But I was told by our friend of the pod and host of the Through the Island podcast, Desmond, that Saturday night is also Royal Rumble.
Yes.
And I was like, they're the same thing, you know? It's just they play the music, and here comes Wyatt Smith, or
At least
here,
these guys aren't going to punch each other in the face. I hope.
yeah,
At least.
yeah. No, it's this is a benevolent Royal Rumble. Jan
Right.
Denis is out.
Yeah.
That's Jan Denis music.
Right.
So
Yeah.
which Royal Rumble do you want to watch? Do you
Right.
want to watch CM Punk and
Mm.
those guys come out, or do you want to watch Joey McDonald and Jan Denis reunite?
Right. Well, as an AEW only watcher, I would not be watching the WWE Royal Rumble, but I also don't want to see Jan Denis suplex Dave Scatcherd. Like, I think that would be a pretty dangerous thing. But I will be watching Alumni Night, and I'm glad you told me that because I'm even more excited for that game now. Okay, we are going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the next 3 games coming up. We're going to talk about some new media that are going to be watching those games, which is going to be a lot of fun, and then a couple other little bits and pieces. So meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now, a word from our sponsors. First is VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, mugs, and more, featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey also carries our Al Arbor and the Island merch, and our portion of the sales always go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. Use the code ANXIETY20 to save 20% off an order of 2 items. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a 2022 Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly. Okay, so we have a lot of other stuff to cover, but let's talk about the next 3 games coming up because they are kind of monumental. So Tuesday night versus Vegas Golden Knights, who are playing in New Jersey as we speak. They had a lead on the Devils, and they might still, I'm not even sure. That's going to be a tough one. Thursday, they are in Montreal, which, in case you haven't heard, is a big deal because Patrick Waugh is behind the bench, so that's a whole other animal. And then, as Mike mentioned, Saturday night against the Florida Panthers, again, back at home, it is alumni night. So this is a trio of very hard games. Taking over mid-season for a coach is never easy, but they were handed 4 really, frankly, pretty tough games. They got through Dallas, which is great. Montreal is absolutely terrible this season, but they certainly have enough firepower to give the Islanders fits and have for a long time, no matter how bad they have been. You're getting Vegas on a back-to-back, which has done nothing for the Islanders so far, although Dallas was on a back-to-back and they beat them. And then obviously Florida is one of the better teams in the conference and could easily win the conference. Actually, I just realized we're playing both ends of the Stanley Cup final this week. Great. Awesome. Let's talk about Vegas first. They were good, then they were bad. Now they're good again. Tuesday is also Pride Night, which is great. They got t-shirts and hats. So get there, get a t-shirt, get a hat. I have Islanders Pride shirts here from a couple of years running now. Hope it's a great time for everybody. So I'm excited to see that too. But this is going to be a tough one. Mark Stone is back. The Golden Knights have basically everybody hurt. So I have no idea who's going to be on this team anymore. But hopefully, maybe the new guy can figure out how to beat teams that are playing on a back-to-back because the old guys certainly couldn't. What do you think about this Vegas game? And I mean, you probably know more about this lineup than I do for betting purposes because I have no idea who's going to be on this team. But this is a tough one. I mean, the Dallas Vegas back-to-back for a new coach is a really, really tough gig. But
Yep.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it actually seems like a pretty good spot for the Islanders. They're favorites in this game, according to the betting markets, and that just tells you how banged up Vegas is right now. And Logan Thompson is playing tonight, so either he'll play on the back-to-back or we'll get somebody called Isaiah Seville, their fourth
Okay.
string goalie, or because Yuri Patera is also hurt and Aiden Hill is
Who
hurt.
is Yuri Patera? I don't even know who
Yeah,
that is.
yeah,
Aiden Hill,
exactly,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
And Aiden Hill, it could be Aiden Hill. There's rumors that he's close, but
Yes.
um, if he plays, it'd be his first game in months, so still decent spot there to take on uh, a rusty goalie, a banged up lineup on a back to back. So um, you 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 really hope that they get this one because then you're talking about going into Montreal against a team that's struggling
Yeah.
with Patrick Wozniak. Sorry, it's hard to not just laugh at that sentence that the Islanders
Right.
are going to go into Montreal with Patrick Waugh, um, and get another couple points in their pocket and
Mhm.
take care of business and yeah, come home for alumni night. So this week is actually set up decently for the Islanders. The Panthers will be a tough game. I think that they're the best team in the Eastern Conference, even better than Boston. But they'll be at home. The arena will be rocking because how can it not be rocking when Joe Finley comes out to to a Rockets applause and he's high fived
Mm,
at center ice by Trent Hunter or Joel Bouchard.
mm.
Uh, Speaking of Joel Bouchard, I heard that he's coaching the minor league team for Tampa Bay,
Anaheim.
the
Oh, is it Tampa? Okay.
Syracuse Crunch.
Yeah.
And they were up 2-1 in a game a couple of days ago in the first period and had a 5-on-3, and he pulled their goalie.
Wow.
So he made it a 6-on-3, and the other team scored. And after the game, he was like, "Yeah, this is something we've been talking about for a while, and we talked about it as a team, and so it was a great kind of like thoughtful answer to the point where I was like, if Patrick Waugh did that, I don't think I'd be mad if he explained it the way that Joel Bouchard did. He seems like a pretty
Right.
sharp coach. So,
Mm, yeah.
he's no Benoit DeRoja or DeRoge or whoever that guy's name was. The
Possible Islanders video coach, but definitely not right now video
yeah.
coach. Possible. But
How would you
uh
say that's Benoit DeRoge?
De- I thought it was DeRoche.
DeRogers?
Yeah. Yeah.
DeRoge? Yeah, I don't know. My French is gonna get so good by the
I
end
was
of the
gonna
year.
say we better get used to some of these names because if Waugh starts bringing in his boys
Oh god,
from
yeah.
up there, that'd be a different thing. But I am looking at the Panthers' schedule that night. We'll get to the Habs in a second, but they are playing in Pittsburgh the night before. So again, this
Wow.
is three teams the Islanders are playing in the span of a week that are all on back to backs. So you got to start to maybe pull some of these points out here. And again, the Panthers are no, that's not an easy game to win, regardless of what their schedule is. But that is, then they're much like the Islanders, they are off all of next week. So this is their final game before February 6th. So I'm hoping maybe their minds are, elsewhere. They do play in Florida. Maybe they're thinking about the beach or going some other tropical place. So we'll see what happens. But
Yep.
that and the Vegas game are obviously kind of two ends of the same coin. They're both very tough. Teams are good. Again, Vegas is now one of those teams that no matter who's in the lineup, they're good. But hopefully again with another day of practice and some more work, maybe Waugh can get these guys to focus up and the Islanders can beat them. It's not that. That's what's been driving us crazy. It's just they have to hunker down, be disciplined, don't take penalties, don't give the puck away as often as you did against Dallas, and maybe get some points. Now the Montreal thing is a whole other ball of fish or kettle of fish or whatever.
Oh man.
Obviously, a much worse team than either Vegas or Florida, but it's in Montreal. It is going to be an absolute circus, and regardless of the game, it is important to note now that the Islanders have a second media contingent following them now. The French Canadian media is all in on this whole Patrick Waugh thing. And so their games are being played on TVA, which is one of the other big French Canadian sports channels out there. They have two French Canadian sports channels. RDS yet to check in, but I'm sure they will at some point. We're getting reports that these guys are getting hired from people in Quebec. I wonder if we can get Renaud Lavoie on this show one day, and we could talk to him about his patented waivers, announcing thing that he does. But this is going to be a wild one. And again, if he can get the Islanders to focus and win this game against a very beatable team, no pun, no offense, that would be huge. And I could see him like waving to the crowd and people, giving him a polite a wave until the Islanders take, a 1-0 lead, and then they're just going to boo him the way they're going to boo them. So this has a chance to be a real circus for a number of different ways. But I'm thinking if the Islanders can win 2 of these games, that would give them 55 points. And depending on how everybody else works out, would keep them very much in the mix. Right now, they have 51. Tampa Bay has 53. Detroit has 53. And then Carolina, which is in the third spot in the Metro, has 55. So you need to get points out of here. You need to, at least 2 out of these 3 to keep things rolling. And if they lose, you lose 1 to Vegas or Florida, hey, it happens. Please don't lose to Florida because that's alumni night. We don't want to do that to those guys. And please don't lose to Montreal. All right, never mind. Just win them all and just get it over with. But if they lost to Vegas, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And they would probably be okay because it obviously depends on what these other guys do. But they need to take at least 2 of these games, is I think what I'm trying to say. And it's not going to be easy. But if they win all 3,
Yep.
the what we've been talking about this whole time, the Wah legend grows even much more than that. So big week before a week off, which is kind of crazy when you think about
Yeah, I cannot wait for that Montreal game. I'm trying to savor every moment here, but
it.
I actually was offered tickets to that game.
Oh wow.
My friend is who brought me to the Habs game a couple of years ago in Montreal had his tickets, and he's like, "If you can get there, they're yours. If not, just let me know." And boy, man, just coming back from Mexico,
I was
and,
gonna say the worst week
having
do that.
having a marriage you don't want to get divorced from. It's Patrick Waugh. On the other hand, it's there's some decisions to be made.
Mm.
But I'm this French Canadian kind of contingent following the Islanders right now is hilarious. It feels a little bit like a very, very watered down version of Lionel Messi going to Miami.
Yeah.
And the just kind of he's like when a college is out of session in like a college town compared to when it's in session. It's just when Messi's in Miami, there's like 50,000 people that are more people in the city because
right.
You got the Argentinian media, you got the Spanish media, you got the rest of the soccer watching world media, plus his kind of entourage and fans, all sorts of things, and it feels like a very miniature version of that, and almost like a mutated version of it with just solely French Canadian beat writers.
What I was saying is it's like Mariners games being on Japanese TV because Ichiro was on the team, or Matsui with the Yankees, or Yao Ming, being played in China. How many people in China watch freaking Rockets games in the early 2000s because Yao Ming was on the TV,
right.
So it's sort of like that a little bit.
But the funny thing is, the Islanders are in the same league as the Canadians. That's the big difference here. That's like we're going off to the strange land where the New York Islanders play hockey in the National Hockey League, which is also the same league that the Montreal Canadiens play in. Yeah, I would have as interested as I am to see Waugh get settled in on Long Island, and as someone pointed out to me, he has already got into an altercation at a coffee shop in 1995 on the island, so he's already got that box ticked. He doesn't need to do that. But as interested as I am to see, like, where's he settling down? Like, what neighborhood is he living in? There's a great French restaurant in Massapequa, so I wonder if he's going there at Brasserie by Alès, I think it's called. I wonder if he's using that as his kind of comfort place while he gets settled. But I'm much more interested right now to know, like, where's Renal Lavoie spending his downtime on Long Island, where these guys who just probably know nothing outside of
the hotel,
the Coliseum. They probably staying at the Marriott and trying to figure out, like, go to where Mike Bossy maybe lived on when he was on the island and stuff like that. But I really want to know what they're doing and where they're eating. Did Renal Lavoie go to All American Hamburgers and like take a picture and post it on Instagram or something?
I mean, I would hope that some of the like MSG folk are kind of taking him around and showing him that sort of thing. I don't know. It's weird, but it is funny to think that they all are kind of discovering the Islanders at once. Because I guarantee you, Patrick Waugh has never spent. We talked about this on Saturday. He's never spent more than 3 hours on Long Island ever in his entire life. Like, why would he have? So Even during that playoff series in '93, he probably didn't hang around
Yeah.
that much, So it's pretty interesting, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Speaking of Mike Bossy, Watt told a great story about how Bossy's daughter was his kid's babysitter. And I don't know if this story is true or not. But one day, Wah said he was at a game and he gets a call that his son got his head stuck in the railing of the stairs. And he had, Mike Bossy had to come over and like cut him out of the the railing on the stairs, which is a pretty hilarious story because they were neighbors. But I don't know, we'll see. But he definitely has the Bossy connection there, which is pretty cool. And I'm sure again those guys want some sort of tour where, but the thing is, well, a lot of stuff where Bossy played doesn't exist anymore. The racket
Yeah.
and rink doesn't exist anymore. The Coliseum is empty basically. So I don't know. We'll have
God.
to see.
Yeah. But that it's just adding to the kind of fun bizarreness of the story.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
because the story is bizarre. The Islanders are of course riddled with bizarre stories in their history, but they're a very select few of them are fun and
Right.
enjoyable, and you enjoy the bizarre ride. And
Mm.
this has been one of them. And the French Canadian media contingent has just been what a welcome joy. Like imagine being Renaud Lavoie and
Mm.
just on Saturday finding out that hey, you got to go to Long Island, buddy. You got to pack your bags and
Right.
head to JFK because Patrick Waugh is there and
Mm.
he's coaching
Yeah.
the Islanders. But he's probably like, can I just wait for him to come on Thursday?
I mean, I wonder if they will assign like a Wah reporter. And
Yeah,
just like
like
kind of
how Johnny Manziel had like a reporter or
right.
something. When
Yeah. Like
I
that's
would you be shocked?
no, I wouldn't.
No.
It would be funny just see that and just to have them kind of because, like you said, there's always been that respect level, the alliance. This is going to strengthen the alliance, and I think lead to a lot more of understanding of what Islanders
Yeah,
fans are all about. And I was saying like this is great because normally when Canadians fans would like descend upon games at the Coliseum, it was because they wanted the Islanders to move to Quebec and become the new Nordiques. Well, now like the alliance is through Wa. So, and obviously the Islanders aren't moving anywhere. So
yep.
this is really a really interesting
And
thing. So,
and you know who wants them out of his hair
yeah.
is our fearless leader Lou Lamoriello, because they're already a bee in his bonnet. He was probably eating dinner at Brian and Cooper today, and it's like some French Canadian reporter has said has found out that I'm talking to Benoit Durocher.
Yeah.
You need to put out a statement.
Mm.
And it's just such a good statement. It says, the Islanders Twitter account. This is the first time I've ever seen anything like this from the Twitter account.
This is unbelievable. I've never seen this either.
New York Islanders Twitter account. Isle statement. Benoit Durocher has not been hired by the New York Islanders. There are plans for president and general manager Lou Lamoriello to meet with Durocher in the future.
That's it.
Yeah. That's it. Right. And I love that it notes that he's the president and general manager. And president and general manager Lou Lamoriello.
Right. As opposed to the other Lou Lamoriello. Yeah. But somebody put out that the Islanders were hiring this guy that worked for Wa in Quebec, and then they put out this statement like 6 hours later saying, no, that's not true. So Lou is I think Lou might dispatch Jacques Lemaire to work his sort of like, sources and stuff. And it's like a French Canadian Popeye Doyle. He's just going to go around and like sort of start breaking thumbs and like, roughing up guys, grab them by the collar. Who'd you talk to? Who did you talk to? To get this information. So we'll have to see. But I am glad you brought up Lou because this is the final thing I wanted to talk about. And it has really not much to do with Patrick Waugh at all. But I do need to talk about, we've talked about this before, and it's time once again to analyze the comedic stylings of one Louis Anthony Lamoriello, because this came up again at the Waugh press conference, and it is irritating and fascinating to me. So you will all remember last year, after Bo Horvat signed his contract extension, Lou was doing the press thing, and Andrew Gross, as per his job, asks, how much is it for and how long? And Lou's answer was, say it with me, it's too long and it's too much money. And of course, normal people like us aren't at these things. And so the first time we hear about them is always through Twitter or social media, whatever. And I remember that the like angst was through the roof. Oh my God, how could Lou say that? That's so disrespectful. If I was an Islanders player, I would quit right now. How can I play for a guy who would think that? Again, every general manager thinks that. Every owner thinks that. I mean, these guys, you think they want to pay $9 million to a guy to play hockey? They didn't want to pay their taxes. Anyway, long story. So it was stupid. And if you went back and listened and watched the video, Lou has impeccable comic timing. Like the way he delivered that line was so funny. It broke up the entire media contingent. Everybody got a good laugh out of it. I'm sure Bo Horvat got a good laugh out of it, right? You remember this whole thing. Like I could
Yeah,
picture
oh,
it right
it's great.
now. It was
Yeah, I can
hilarious.
the wry smile and the whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Oh, so good with the windbreaker on.
Yeah. Like, again, I'm sure Bo thought it was funny. I'm sure everybody thought it was funny because he's probably said the same line to all of them when they signed their contract extensions. Anyway, fast forward almost a year, right? Now here's Patrick Waugh press thing. It's going very well. It's lots of, Waugh is very effervescent, very charismatic, talking, gets to the end. Somebody asked him about like his conversation with Lou, and he says, the only thing Lou said we could not talk about was the 2001 Stanley Cup final. And then he goes, no, I'm kidding. And it was a kind of jokes. And he said he was kidding. But then Lou says, no, he was not kidding. That's not a joke. Right? So again, this comes out through Twitter, and it wasn't quite as angsty, but still there were people like, oh, another one of Lou's rules. You can't talk about the cup final he lost. This guy's ridiculous. I can't believe they still have this guy. But if you listen to the presser, and if you haven't on the Islanders site, I recommend that you do. The whole, again, impeccable comic timing. It's so funny the way Waz says, I'm kidding, and Lou like just grabs the thing. He's like, no, he's not kidding. That's not a joke. And the follow-up gag was him saying, and if you don't know anything about the 2001 Stanley Cup final, good. Like it's just so funny. It cracks me up that this guy, he has this comic timing, and it just reminds me of like, you guys all know I love the Golden Girls. Like B. Arthur is my favorite on that show. She just cracks me up. And like she had this ability to make people laugh without ever saying anything. Like she would just look at the camera after somebody was doing something stupid, and it was the funniest thing you've ever seen. And so few people can do that. Like even the other three Golden Girls couldn't pull that off. Only she could do that. And it's just this amazing ability. And I'm not saying that Lou is like, B. Arthur type comic genius or anything, but he has this ability to say these lines at these events, and they're funny. And then they get filtered through Twitter, and it becomes like a fireable offense. I don't know what happened to these people that they can't see a joke for what it is. And it's just, I found it funny. I'm sure they talked about the 2001. I mean, Patrick was almost 60 years old. I promise you, he talked about the 2001 Stanley Cup final with Lou Lamoriello. Like, it wasn't like they really didn't talk about it. They both know what happened. We all saw what happened. I watched that Cup final. It was a good one. So I just found it funny that, like, once again, we have a ton of people who don't understand the comic stylings of this man, and the public perception of Lou versus the real Lou, I think, are two very different things. Like, yeah, I joked even today about the DeRoche thing and how he was going to get chloroformed and beaten with a hose until he gave up his sources. Like, we all joke about that kind of stuff, but I think Lou behind the scenes is just a very different person. I like the idea that, like, Patrick Waugh is a guy with strong opinions. What's he going to do with Lou Lamoriello? You think Lou's never worked with a guy with strong opinions before? You think Jacques Lemaire has never told Lou to shut up and sit down because he had an idea about something? Like, I don't understand. Like, that's what Lou would want. Like, he respects guys like that, I think. I'm sure he has immense respect for Patrick Waugh, even though he beat him in the 2001 Stanley Cup final. Like, it's just, I just find it funny that, again, for the millionth time, and I didn't know any of this too before Lou, like, it's just the real Lou and the public Lou, I think, are two very different things. And it kind of drives me nuts.
Yeah, no, I think it's, I was going to bring up a point that kind of leads into that the real Lou and the version that has been kind of fanficked into the hockey Twitter annals is just so different that most people think of Lou and on 32 Thoughts, Jeff Marek and Elliot Friedman spent a lot of time talking about Waugh and the Islanders move and whatever, and it was, as you said today, like, it was well done. Like, it was fun. It was a good thing to listen to.
Fair. I thought they were good.
The one thing that was annoying was that Marek was like, he this is Lou Lamoriello, the safe conservative general manager, and that's, I think, what people just think of this guy as. And I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. People think that Lou is like the monolith and part of the herd when he is 81. He is the most unique general manager in the league. He is the outlier here. He is the unique one. He is the only general manager in the league that was, alive, in the 40s, basically, right? Like, he was born in 1943. He was born during World War II, and he is running a National Hockey League team,
right,
in the age of streaming and Twitter and all these things that uh, are well beyond a lot of people at that age. So
Mm,
incredibly unique guy, and the kind of made up version of Lou is that he's this slow moving, boring, doesn't do anything guy, and for a while he didn't touch the Islanders, and
right.
it got frustrating. But since then, it's been one move after another, really, just not
Yeah.
on the hockey holidays. It's it's not been on July 1st or the trade deadline. It's been just when the Islanders have needed it. And
Mm,
if you think back to like Alex Romanov and then trading for Horvat,
yeah.
bringing in Bortuzzo and Riley,
Mm,
uh, trading for Engvall, like now this one, the guy is doing what the old kind of Lou Lamoriello, what Devil's Salad days Lou Lamoriello was doing.
mm,
Um, and this move, the fact that it just came out of nowhere
mm.
it's such a huge part of this whole experience, right? Like it was such a surprise. It was this crazy Christmas is over. Oh, but I got you one more gift kind of thing, right?
Mm.
And it ends up being like a bike or something that you remember for the rest of your life. Because you just totally unexpected, wasn't on anybody's radar, and it just showed that this guy has convinced the entire world that he lost his fastball about 14 years ago, and he just threw one at everybody's chin, and he just
Right.
like knocked everybody off, and this where everybody else is dusting themselves their uniform off and like looking
Mm,
at him, and he's just got, like you said, a wry smile,
mm,
comedic timing. It's it's so good.
mm,
And say what you want about the guy and the way he's handled the roster. It's been so much fun to be a part of a Lou Lamoriello team because there's one general manager in the league who does this in the
mm,
middle of a season, doesn't know, and is able to keep it completely quiet until it actually happens. And it's the guy running the Islanders. And just take a moment to think about the fact that the New York Islanders are general managed by Lou Lamoriello, and they're now head coached by Patrick Waugh.
right.
Just
Yeah.
think about that.
It's
Like,
crazy.
that's nuts. Like, think
Right.
about if somebody told you in 2001, right after that Stanley Cup, somebody said, well, Dan, there's the future general manager of the New York Islanders and the future head coach of the New York Islanders shaking hands, after the game, after game 7.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It's crazy that these
It's
guys are.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but it is the reality we live in right now, which is insane. I mean, Lamorello plus Trotz was crazy, but this
Right.
is even crazier than that. So, yeah, yeah, it's nuts. And with Bo Horvat at center as well,
Yeah. We had Bo
Throwing
Horvat
in there.
and Ilya Sorokin
Right?
and Matt Barzell and,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
and Julien Gauthier.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna skip the Gautier talk this time. We've done enough. We've come very far. So yeah, this is a huge week. 3 huge games. 2 at home. Again, Tuesday is Pride Night. There's a great story on the Islanders website about shirts that they're gonna have for sale there by an artist named Mona Monahan. You should check that out. And then Saturday is Alumni Night. One of my favorite nights of the year. I can't wait to see who's there. I'm hoping for an Al Montoya sighting as always. Actually, he was just here with the Stars, so hopefully he drops in.
Maybe he just stayed. You think he just stayed?
Well, I don't know if the director of like community outreach travels with the Stars, but if he did, he probably
Yeah,
stayed.
maybe. Maybe he's
Yeah,
like, "Hey, I got a thing on Long
yeah,
Island I gotta do. If you mind just if I just hop along
yeah.
and go for a ride."
We're pretty cool. I think they already had their alumni game. Like there was, or maybe it hasn't happened yet, but it was like Kasparaitis, Turgeon was going to play there. Oh, I'm hoping that they do some Turgeon Hall of Fame stuff. And
Ah,
maybe we get, dare I invoke the name of Roberto Luongo. Maybe this will be the first
wow.
ever. If Luongo is there, this is officially the greatest Islanders alumni night of all time. But
Hmm.
we'll see what happens. Can
I'll
you imagine him and Wah in the same building?
Oh my god. Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? Like, maybe there's just maybe the Islanders kind of team services person just got, like,
Right,
a boatload of emails from
right,
alumni who are like, "Oh, by the way, I said no to this originally, but,
right.
I'm gonna come." "Okay, okay, Aaron Johnson, come on down." "Oh, you're driving Drew Fada? Great."
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But the
yeah.
best thing about Luongo would be him being like, why would they want me at alumni night? I only
Yeah.
played there for like 25 games, and somebody on the other end being like, no, you don't understand how these things go. They want you to be there. Like they want,
Yeah.
and they're gonna blow the roof off that place when you come in. And he's right. I think
Yeah.
they're right. We would absolutely do that. So
Um,
we'll see. But
the one I'm most hoping for, well, of course, every year it's Wade Dublowitz.
yes,
We're still working
right.
on getting him in the building, but I'll throw out that I would love to see Victor Kozlov.
Yeah,
Let's get Victor Kozlov there,
sure.
and
Yeah.
maybe he can play a game or two and just be their shootout specialist because that guy
how,
was great.
how
So
about a
coolest.
Yashin Kozlov reunion? That'd be kind of
Ah,
fun to
come,
see.
that'd be beautiful.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Whoever's in
Yep.
charge, make it happen. You still have a few days. Make it happen. It'd be great. But and then somehow in between those two great home games, we have a game in Montreal with Patrick Waugh behind the bench. So it's going to be a wild one. And then thank God we're off all next week, or the Islanders are off all next week for the pre All Star break. That being said, that gets me to our schedule. So this is the only episode we're doing this week. We put out a great Weird Islanders on Friday with our friend Tyler Gilden, who is a film producer and a podcaster himself and an all-around great guy. We talked about Peter Regan, who played 44 games for the Islanders before being traded to Chicago with another guy, Pierre-Marc Bouchard, and the ramifications of that seemingly minor trade need to be reckoned with. So if you have not heard that episode, please go back and listen to it. It was absolutely fantastic. And the revelation that we came to while recording that episode still blows my mind. So please go back and listen to it. That was before our WA episode. So this is it for us this week. That being said, next week is absolutely packed to the gills, even though the Islanders aren't playing. We have a new anxiety on Sunday. We're going to have a country club atmosphere next week. We're going to have another one of my book club episodes next week. And then, I think that's about it. Yeah, book club. And then another Weird Islanders. Sorry, of course, another Weird Islanders on Friday. Special all-star edition of Weird Islanders, the podcast. So that's 4 pieces of content all coming out next week while the Islanders aren't even playing. So don't say that, you don't get your money's worth over at Islanders Anxiety, whether you're a patron or not, but sign up at the Patreon. Don't forget as well. I almost said donut. Don't forget our live event also March 30th, Offside Tavern, New York City, 4:00. It's a Weird Islanders thing. Bring your Weird Islanders jerseys, shirts, swag, whatever. We want to hear from you. We're going to put it in the podcast. Your stories, why you have this weird stuff, why you like these weird players. So bring it, and we want to hear from you. March 30th, Offside Tavern, 4:00. It's going to be great. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. That's about it. Again, sign up at patreon.com. Follow us on Twitter at Isles Anxiety Pod. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and at Spotify. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music at Bandcamp and at Spotify. They're on the road, so check them out if they're near you. Read Lighthouse Hockey, of course, every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety Podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Learn more at fansfirstsports.com. Shop vintageIceHockey.com. Try Wines and the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Read and listen to his work at Action Network, obviously. Any final thoughts? We have had a very lengthy podcast here. I don't know if you'll have any other, but if you have any final thoughts on the first 3 days of the Patrick Waugh experience, let's hear them.
No, I don't. It's been quite fun. It's we think about the Islanders basically all day long. And for the past couple weeks, it's been cloudy when you've been
Yeah.
thinking, and now it's fun. It's something like I like waking up and going about my day and remembering that Patrick Waugh is here and laughing. There's been 3 or 4 times even today that I just started cracking up thinking about Patrick Waugh at being the Islanders head coach. It's not gonna not be weird and funny
Yeah.
for a long time. It's not. It's just seeing the name, like when you text somebody Patrick Waugh, just seeing that name and being like, that's the name of the Islanders head coach. It's all so fun and funny, and sports is supposed to be weird. Sports is supposed to be fun. I don't know of any fan base in any sport right now is having more fun than the Islanders and their new head coach Patrick Waugh.
Which is a 180-degree turnaround from last week when we were having no fun whatsoever.
Right.
But that reminds me, though, one last thing on Waugh at his presser somebody asked about analytics, and he said another thing that made me laugh. He said, "We don't like analytics when we're at the bottom of the league, and we love it when we're at the top of the league." That's fantastic. I love that. That's amazing. Again, maybe this guy also, much like his new boss, has some impeccable comic timing. Signs are certainly there. So we'll have to see. But 3 days in, we're having a good time. We're laughing. We hope you did too. We'll be back in about a week with another episode of Islanders Anxiety, plus a ton of stuff next week. So we will see you then. And thanks for listening. And we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.